Nick Wright, first things first, joining us live. How surprised are you? I'll start with this. Take LeBron out. So people often say mobility works. Well, it works with LeBron. Kevin Durant.
That's correct.
Warriors won before him, during him, after him. Take LeBron out. He's like Mahomes. He works without a running back. You can get rid of Tyreek Hill. That's different. But you go to Russell, Michael, Bird, Magic, Duncan. The stay where you're at model and let the organization patiently build around you. Could I not argue if you just take LeBron, the greatest player ever, out, what Denver's doing is what the Spurs did, is what the Bulls did, it's what the Celtics did.
It's what the Bucks. Well, listen, I think the super team model is really a LeBron James model.
That's right.
Now, the model that definitely works is having an excellent team already intact and adding either a great player or a final piece. The Raptors with Kawhi had a team that was good but not great, a culture, all of it. Then they swap out DeMar DeRozan for Kawhi Leonard, win the title. The Warriors had already won a title, gotten to another finals. They swap out Harrison Barnes for Kevin Durant. They're one of the greatest teams ever. That obviously works, right? But the other thing that obviously works is what the Bucks did, what the Warriors did before Durant, what the Nuggets did, what, to a lesser degree, the Heat have done, where they add the piece in Jimmy Butler, but the rest of it is built up from within, what the Celtics are attempting to do. So, yeah, I actually agree with that wholeheartedly, that the microwaved team out of nowhere, it blew up spectacularly in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it will ever get off the ground with the Clippers. It has really only ever worked with LeBron, and to be honest, even the LeBron parts have had fits and starts with it, most notably the first year in Miami.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I think people consistently, Colin, come May and June, see what it takes to win a championship, and then in December and January totally forget about it, and over the summer. And they just trick themselves into thinking, well, this team can't defend, and this team doesn't have depth, and this team doesn't like each other, but they'll be fine, when those teams are never fine.
Yeah, Denver's defense in the fourth quarter and their chemistry in the end, which is hard to build either if you're not playing together for years, won it. Jokić is interesting. So years ago, if you got 10 assists, that meant you were also creating 20 points. But in the three-ball era, 10 assists can be 24 points. And when I look at Jokić, beyond the 25 points, there's the 10, 11 assists. His elevation of others. I said when I watch Jokić play, I don't know. I mean, all the great centers have been different. Kareem was the skyhook. Moses Malone was the rebounder. Shaq was powerful and flamboyant.
Sure.
There's a Duncan component to Jokić, which is it's kind of fundamental with a little Larry Bird passing. But when you hear about the Jokić historic, one of your pushbacks on 3 MVPs in a row was a legitimate one. Let's save that for the all-time greats. And then you watch Jokić and you're like, okay, has he become an all-time great?
He's an all-time great. He's an all-time great. Like this is, and people, I think sometimes they might hear me say that and say, oh, Nick's being inconsistent. I am being the definition of consistent. There is a final level. He achieved it last night.
Yeah.
People might think this sounds ludicrous, but I believe it to the marrow. 24 hours ago, Nikola Jokić was not an all-time great. Now he is undeniably.
Yeah.
That's how it works in this league. And the frustrating thing with me, with the Jokić commentary and then the backlash and the backlash to the backlash, is people pretended that he was being singled out. It is the exact to a T process Giannis went through. Won an MVP, people are like, he's awesome. won another MVP, had a really crummy finals, and people were like, let's pump the brakes a bit. Then had a start-to-finish dominant, get-on-my-back playoff run, and the whole world said, yeah, you're one of the 25 greatest players ever, undeniable. That's how it works. Those are the steps in this league.
Yeah.
And those of us that said we need to see him do it over 2 months in the playoffs, folks, the response was, why do you need to see it? And the answer to that is not to be a jerk, but you know what the answer to that is? Because James Hardens have existed in the NBA forever.
Yeah.
Guys who are unbelievable in the regular season, and then come the postseason, either can't last or go backwards or the moment gets to them. I needed to see it.
Yeah.
And by the way, for me to consider him one of the 2 or 3 best players in the league right now, he didn't need to win the title.
Yeah.
Just getting to the finals and what they did against the Lakers is like, okay, that's undeniable.
Yeah.
But now, having won the title, if people want to say he's the best player in the world, even if I personally still think Giannis can be more impactful on both ends, and Giannis by a hair would be my pick, I totally get it.
Yeah.
That's how it works in the NBA. It's how it's always worked in the NBA.
Yeah, by the way, we understand that in boxing, UFC, tennis, downhill skiing, any individual sport, you have to win the gold or win the fight. Yeah. If Conor McGregor had never won the big fight, he would just be a flamboyant, fun guy, good on pay-per-view. He wouldn't be considered the greatest UFC, potential fighter of all time.
And can I add something else to it, Colin? Since 1980, and this is why my pick of the Heat, in hindsight, was it went against history.
Yeah.
Since 1980, Colin, if you don't have one of the 25 greatest players ever, you can't win the title unless you're on the 04 Pistons. Because it's Magic and Kareem, it's Moses and Dr. J, it's Bird, it's Isaiah, it's Jordan, it's Akeem, it's Duncan, it's Shaq/Kobe, it's the 04 Pistons, it's Wade and Shaq, it's Dirk, it's KG, it's Kobe, it's LeBron, it's Steph, it's Giannis. Kawhi, I guess, is the other outlier, but he would have been, but injuries ruined him. It's Jokic. So Jokic is now in that group. He is one of the 25 greatest players ever. And in the NBA, I know it's not an individual sport, but we have almost a half century of history that says you don't need having Jason Tatum is fun and it's cool, but if you want to win a title, you need a legend, not an awesome player.
Yeah, it goes back to like the Mahomes thing we talked about earlier. You had to see the win last night. I always thought Mahomes was great. But to lose Tyreek Hill, have better numbers and win, okay, that's different. Like that even for Mahomes, it's like great, maybe greatest ever now. And I think those moments speaking of this, and I was talking about this earlier, is that sometimes I think we undervalue great. And think about this. So all teams did for 30 years was try to stop LeBron. The whole game plan was on stopping LeBron, and they still couldn't. So the J.R. Smith can give you 21. No game plan's trying to stop him. The gap between LeBron and J.R. Smith, we know, is substantial. But the greats are so great, like Jokic. Miami's entire game plan as a defensive team stop him. Nobody could. I was thinking about this with Mahomes. Mahomes is the only quarterback in the league. Burrow needed Mixon. Lamar's needed J.K. Dobbins. Herbert needs Eckler. Obviously, Daniel Jones needs Saquon. Dak needed Zeke at his prime. I can argue Mahomes is so great. The gap between him and Burrow, and we both love Burrow, is so great. He didn't need Tyreek Hill. He doesn't need a running back because of Reed's ability to create plays and then Mahomes' ability to finalize those plays, right? Is that, do you feel like, I saw this story about the Chiefs are going to have a $3 million backfield, which is just unheard of. Yeah. Do you believe, and I know you're a Chiefs guy, but I think to myself, God, Mahomes is even significantly better than Burrow.
Well, I think there is I think Joe Burrow has earned the right to be called the second best quarterback in football. But I think someone wants to argue Jalen Hurts. I'll listen to him. I don't think Josh Allen's in that tier anymore. But if you want to argue, you can make a compelling case. But that's where the argument has moved to, because the gap between the guy we're showing video of, Patrick Mahomes, and every other quarterback, I think is bigger than the gap between whoever's number 2 and whoever's number 8. Because he simply has no weaknesses as a passer, and not just as a passer, but as a player. I mean, we talk about the most mobile quarterbacks in the league, and no one brings up Mahomes. But some of the most legendary quarterback runs in modern playoff history were by Patrick Mahomes. The touchdown before the half against Tennessee, where he shook off 3 guys and ran for 30 yards to go to the Super Bowl. The one against Cincinnati to set up the field goal. The one against the Eagles to set up the game-winning field goal on one leg. That's with his legs, and that's like his 4th option. The thing that I find fascinating to watch in how the Chiefs are going to try to build this out is they have clearly leaned into what you're talking about, which is why spend, get a 7th rounder in Pacheco, try to keep McKinnon, spend as little as possible there and bulk up the rest of it. I wonder if it's one point, if the opportunity presents itself, will they counter the other direction, which is what would it look like if in an era where running backs are cheaper than ever, we had one of the 4 best running backs in football, where teams occasionally had to actually respect the run. Not what would that do for our running game, but what would that do for Patrick Mahomes? Like, they have a lot of other, kind of punches they can pull, if you will, as they build this out over the next decade. And I do think that they're going to have to do that if and when Travis Kelce either slows down or retires. Because while that has been, it's not underrated, but having arguably the greatest tight end ever with him the whole time has obviously been a massive part of his dominance.
Yeah, we've never, and by the way, another credit to Mahomes, we've never really considered, even with Gronk, even with Kellen Winslow, we never considered the tight end as the number 1 target. Mahomes is great enough that we're going to take a mid-round tight end, and that becomes his target. It's always been a star receiver for Bradshaw, for Aikman, for Staubach, for everybody.
Speaking of star receivers, I know my guy Josh Allen's going to be on the cover of Madden, but what's up with Stephon Diggs?
I know.
Why is he so unhappy?
I know.
Trouble in paradise. I mean, they were best buds. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I don't have reporters on the ground in upstate New York. But, it seems like there's just trouble in paradise up there, and you just hate to see it. You just really hate to see it.
Yeah, I know.
For the, 3-time defending AFC East, 2nd round defending champion Buffalo Bills. You just hate to see it.
So obnoxious. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.